Last week on my blog I wrote about a new TV show, Million Dollar Traders, what's being shown on British television. Now we're 2 shows into the 3-week run and I wanted to take a moment to reflect on this great piece of documentary. There are 2 lessons what every trader must understand that are coming shining through, and I want to discuss those. Before I do, here's a quick summary for you for those who haven't been able to watch it. So London City trader and hedge fund manager Lex Van Dam, and what a brilliant name that is, decided to set up an experiment to see if he could teach anyone a trade. He interviewed hundreds of applicants and finally selected 8 people, and those he chose came from all different kinds of backgrounds. You've got an environmentalist who wants to try and trade only ethical stocks, a soldier, a boxing promoter, entrepreneur, a retired IT consultant, a vet, a student and a shopkeeper. Now some of these folks are better educated than others, which is important because it relates directly to one of the lessons what this show has so wonderfully illustrated, and I'll come to that in a moment. So the ex-vet, and I'm talking about an animal doctor here, not the army kind of vet, is highly educated and comes from a wealthy family. The retired IT guy spent 40 years working as a computer programmer at IBM, and the shopkeeper studied at university before joining the family business. Then at the other end of the scale we got the fight promoter, who's got no such privileged education. You've also got the soldier and the entrepreneur, who are pretty much of average education as far as I can tell, and the student obviously is still studying. So the 8 who were picked were given 2 weeks of intensive training by Mr. Van Dam and his team of traders, and they covered all bases including fundamental analysis, technical analysis, trading psychology and all the practical aspects like how to make their Bloomberg terminals work and how to actually place trades. And then following on from that, they were straight onto their own trading floor for 6 weeks of live trading with real cash, and quite a lot of real cash in fact, $1 million of Lex Van Dam's hard-earned cash. So in the first show, a couple of weeks ago, we saw highlights of the training and the first week of their trading, and as you can probably imagine, the first week was pretty traumatic and they were all over the place. By the end of the first day, if I remember it right, only one of them had actually placed a trade, and by the end of the week they'd all placed trades but they'd all lost money. Then in the most recent episode, the one what was earlier this week, we saw them trading for another 2 weeks, and this is where it gets really interesting because we're starting to see who gets it and who doesn't. Now depending on your own experience of trading, you might be surprised at the results so far. Alright, so here's the first lesson. Success in trading has very little to do with intelligence and everything to do with personality. Now before I go on, I just want to make a quick disclaimer. What constitutes intelligence is something that's often debated. Is it a high IQ what makes you intelligent, and what about if you're the creative type? So for our purposes here, I'm going to go with the popular conception of intelligence being a reasonably high IQ and a good education. So on that basis we'd expect the computer programmer, vet, university educated shopkeeper and those guys to do well, and perhaps the soldier and the fight promoter would probably find it tougher. And yet exactly the opposite is true. In fact, Simon, the computer programmer, remember he worked as a consultant for IBM for 40 years, actually ended up walking out halfway through the experiment, just after the end of the 3rd week in fact. He just couldn't do it, didn't suit his personality. And he said, and I'm quoting this as best as I can remember it, "This is the most stressful thing I've done in my life after my divorce." And he was a complete wreck. His results were so bad, he was losing the team more than the winning traders were making all put together. So why would somebody who's apparently intelligent, well educated and used to working with numbers struggle so much with trading? Well, he said it best himself. He said, "I'm used to writing computer programs. Once they're written, either they work or they don't. If they work, they continue to work forever. If they don't, then you find the bugs, fix them, and then the program works and continues to work forever. With this, I keep doing the same thing, but I get different results. Why? Because there are humans involved." Well, Simon, I couldn't have put it better myself. Despite the thousands of programmed trades that are made every day, trading is essentially a human activity and it's driven by emotion. And boy, have we seen some emotion in this show. Cleo, who's the ex-vet, has spent 3 weeks sat in front of her trading screen and barely made a single trade. She's basically paralysed by fear. She's not made a huge loss, but she ain't made a profit either, because she can't, because she won't trade. And you've got another one of the traders who cries for joy every time one of his trades ticks up. So both these guys are just totally controlled by their emotions. But I want to get back to this thing that Simon the computer man said. He's trying to apply rules to trading in the same way his computer programs are basically sets of rules. He can't cope with the fact that doing the same thing over and over doesn't always produce the same results. And this is the second great lesson what Million Dollar Traders is exposing, and that is that trading isn't about rules, it's about principles.